Hi everyone, welcome back. This is a very different setting. I know this is gonna be a very experimental video, so bear with me. I'm just trying to see my yearly wrap up for the Storyboard, which is a very different website from Goodreads. I mean, not very different, it's slightly different. I think it's slightly better, but I'm gonna guide you through it and then we're gonna see my yearly wrap up, alright? Just a second while I get this through. Alright, so as you can see, this is basically the Story Graph, which is a great website. It's very similar to Goodreads. If you have a Goodreads account, you can actually transfer all your books that you have on your shelves into the Story Graph. It's super simple, they have instructions. I recommend you do it, simply because this website, I'll show you what it has, but this is just my read pile, some of the books that I have to read. I have currently reading just like you have on Goodreads. You have recommendations, which I found some of them were actually better than the Goodreads recommendations. I've grabbed some of these. They also have giveaways and other stuff, but some of the most important things that I think are amazing in this website is that you can give scores of half and a quarter stars. So you can give like 2, 2.25, 2.5, 2.75, 3, and so on. So that allows you to give that extra difference if you feel like the books are not a 2 but they're not a 3 either, so there's all that distinction. And then one of the best things that I enjoy about this book, you also have the reading challenges, like the number of books, number of pages. You can even set number of hours if you go through audiobooks a lot, so you can set all of these. And they also have a huge amount of stats. Most of these we're going to go through in my yearly wrap-up, so there's no point of me going through this at the moment, but I'll let you know how the yearly wrap-up is formatted compared to these stats. Alright, so let's start with my 2023 reading wrap-up. It says, okay, I've read 63 books across 26,000 pages. I consider myself a good reader, but of course I'm not like an extreme reader like you see on booktube, people that have read 200 books or more. I wish I could be that person, but I can't, unfortunately. Not yet. It's a goal. Always try to increase a few more books every year. But so this was my first book, the book that I finished in 2023, Arm of the Sphinx by Josiah Bancroft. It was a great book. Maybe not the best one out of the tetralogy, but definitely a good book. And my last book was Full Metal Alchemist, the Full Metal Edition, the Volume 4, which, again, living Full Metal Alchemist is always so good because I love Full Metal Alchemist. I've seen the Brotherhood anime, and I'm reading the manga simply because I want to relive those emotions, and it's been perfect. So, another thing that Storygraph shows, it's mood maps. So this is basically if the books that I read are lighter or darker in terms of themes. And so as you can see, my January and February were quite dark, and then the rest of the year was quite light. It seemed like it was starting to go down in December, but overall I consider my reading is quite light. I read a lot of manga, or quite a few volumes of manga, especially One Piece. Those are always lighthearted, so I feel like they pull this line up. It says you embarked on exciting adventures, enjoyed some lighthearted fun, and delved into dark and intense narratives. Not many, only at the start of the year. And most of my stories developed at a steady pace. So a thing that the Storygraph does is it shows you where each book, if it goes at a fast, slow, medium pace, and you can actually also categorize that when you go and review a book. So that's what I mean by this. These are the books and pages read per month. So as you can see, January was my lowest month, only 3 books read. And then my second lowest was July. Overall, I was reading 4 or 5 books per month. I mean, May and March were quite high with 7. But then you also have the pages read. So as you can see, even though January I read the fewest books, I actually read more pages than in February. But it seems like May and October were my highest books, probably because I also finished rereading Wheel of Time books at those months, so it elevated by a lot, because Wheel of Time books are always huge. So I completed my reading goals, both in terms of number of books and pages, which again, always try to increase every year. It's a goal, so it's okay if you fail, but at least you try, and that's what I'll try this year. I've increased both of these. Then it shows you the genres you spend most time in 2023, of course fantasy, and next will be manga and sci-fi. Historical was a surprise because I don't consider myself to be a historical type of rating person, but I guess I read a few. And of course LGBTQIA+ books, These are within the fantasy and science fiction as well, so maybe that's why they are there. I definitely want to increase the genres more this year, but I always say that and end up reading a lot of fantasy nonetheless. The biggest book, or the longest book that I read last year was The Shadow Rising, Robert Jordan, Wheel of Time. It's going to be always big chunkies. And the smallest book was One Piece with 192 pages. Again, I think this was probably one of the best ones, even though it's small, it was very good. It says the average length of the books you read was 419 pages, and it took you around 16 days to finish each book. This is a bit contradictory because, I think, yeah, it was around 400 pages on average, but the fact that I was rereading with friends and with my partner the Wheel of Time books, so it was extending over several months. It says that the average to finish a book is 16 days, but it might not actually be true because I was finishing a book every week or so. So yeah, take it with a grain of salt. This was the book I read the fastest, which was One Piece, just one day. I reckon most of One Piece would be one day. I was just being lazy and updating the story graph. And again, The Eye of the World, which was what the first Wheel of Time books, took 150 days. It makes sense because I was reading with other people and we were just reading a couple of chapters every week. These are the authors I spent the most time with in 2023. One Piece with Eiichiro Oda. Of course, I read 22 volumes of them. And then Robert Jordan, we read 5 Wheel of Time books, all of them great. I love that journey. And then Andrzej Sapkowski, which is the author of The Witcher. So yeah, last year I actually finished the Witcher series, which was very, very, very mixed feelings. I decided not to put reviews in the channel because I'm not really a fan of the main series. I loved the short story books, but not the main series. So I decided it was better not to touch it and to do reviews on the books. Of course, if you still want me to review them and tell you what I think about it, I'm more than happy to. My average rating this year or last year was 4.11, so it's quite good. I tend to read books that I know I'll enjoy, especially recommendation from friends or from other booktubers. So, of course, the rating will be a bit elevated. These were some of my 5-star reads. These are like top 5 stars. So these were 2 of the One Piece volumes. One of them with Chopper because I love Chopper's arc, and the other one, still Chopper's arc. I guess it makes sense. And this was actually not a 5 read this year. I gave it a 5-star the first time I read it, and that's what it's recording. But it wasn't a 5-star the second time around. And so these are the ratings that I gave throughout the year. So here you can see perfectly well that you can have the 1/2 and 1/4 stars. So I have one book that I gave 2 stars, did not talk about it, or yes, I did, The Children of Men. I did not like that book. Then we have so on and so forth. Of course, 4.5 is the highest one because I have a lot of books that I enjoy reading and that were recommended, and those tend to be the higher ups. So yeah, my ratings are right skewed, which is good. You always want to be rating right skewed because it means you're really enjoying what you're reading. Some book months were better than others, so September apparently was my highest average rating. I gave a lot of good scores for September, and March apparently wasn't my favorite month because the average score was 3.57, which is quite low. Again, October, most pages read, 3,000 pages. And now comparing my reads with other Storygraph readers or users, The Poppy War, which I reviewed recently on the channel, it was the most shelved book this year. It has 186,000 people shelving it, and my rating was 4. And the least shelved was actually Full Metal Alchemist, my last book of the year. Only not even 700 people shelved it. The highest rated was Jade Legacy. I wish I could have loved this book more because everyone just talks so good about it and everyone loves it so much, but yeah, I don't know, I didn't like it that much. So my score was 4.25. It's not bad. It's still a great book, but definitely not a 4.68 for me. I've explored the works of 7 new authors this year, including Emma Wong, Peter F. Hamilton, R.J. Barker, Fondly was another one, so yeah, that's good. I want to explore more because 7 doesn't seem like much for a whole year. And 61 of the books you read were part of your series, One Piece being one of them, but yeah, I read a lot of books that are parts of series, and I guess because there aren't many standalones in fantasy, they're more in sci-fi, and I do want to delve more into sci-fi, so maybe this will be a good reason, but I do need to finish the series that I've started because I have so many, so definitely need to finish that. I revisited a total of 5 books this year, meaning I reread 5 books. They were all Wheel of Time, so no surprise here. And you finish all the books you picked up this year, no DNFs. Yes, that's another thing I do. I try to always finish the books that I read. Try to not DNF. There was only a couple of books that I DNF'd in my entire life, but I always try to give that chance because I realized a lot of times that a book that I wasn't enjoying at the start or midway, sometimes they have amazing endings and it's all worth it. The Dark Tower, for example, a series that at the start I was not liking it at all, and as it progressed I started enjoying it more, and the ending was just mind-blowing, so that was always a lesson for me, and that's why I try to not DNF books. I read 9 books from your own shelves this year. I do not understand what this is because I own all the books that I've read, so moving on. Of course, you have a Plus premium subscription you can access on this website because this website isn't owned by Amazon. So if you want to help them out, they will give you more stuff. As they say, they have an extra wrap-up data, mood, pace charts based on my reviews, and information about which book characteristics you like the most. This can be quite useful if you want to explore more of the books. And then again, these are just the books that I read throughout the year. A lot of One Piece, some more manga, a lot of Wheel of Time, and most of them you've seen on the channel, the books that I've read. The ones that you probably haven't seen are books that I started the series before starting the channel, and so I didn't think it would make sense to add that to the channel. But that is it for the wrap up. I can show you the stats for 2023 simply because there are a couple of things that are different, like this, where the mood of the books that I've read, most of them were adventurous, 61, then lighthearted, dark, funny, mysterious, tense, so on and so forth. So the story graph also allows you can categorize what you think this book is, and you can choose several of these categories, but then it averages across everyone that has reviewed the book, and it gives you a more accurate description of what the general population thinks this book is. Again, the pacing, like I said, slow, fast, medium. Most of the books that I read are medium paced, and that's what it was saying in the yearly wrap-up. Page number. The majority of books I read were either really big or really small, which are the manga volumes, and most of or 100% of what I read is fiction, so no non-fiction. I have read non-fiction before, but it's definitely not what I aim to read most of the time. And these are just the genres. As you can see, it has one literary, which was Trust, but it didn't show up on my yearly wrap-up. Don't know why. All the books I don't know why this shows up like this, but all the books that I read were in English, and most of them were print, so all the books I own, like I said, and 2 were digital. These are the authors that I read the most, so it only showed the top 3, but after that it would be Josiah Bancroft with Senlin Ascents, Hiromu Harakawa, Fonda Lee, R.J. Barker, R.F. Kuang, Tenzin Muir, and Mary Brennan. All of these are great. I really love all these books. Maybe not Tenzin Muir, but as you've seen my scores, it has a very highs and very lows. I'll move on from that. All the books that I read are in English. This is the same graph as I showed before, and so is this. So that is it for the yearly wrap up. Oh, no, wait. Let me show you. So let's imagine that I finished this book that I'm currently reading, The Color of Magic. Yes, I'll be putting a review for it once I finish it. But so if I finish this book, I can add a review. And this is what it shows. So you can choose whatever categories you think this book applies for. You can say if it's slow, medium, fast. You can then, it gives you a series of questions, and you don't have to answer these. I like answering because then I can go back and think about if it's really accurate and compare with what other people think. So it's book mainly plots or character driven. Is there a strong character development? Yes, no, it's complicated. Did you find the characters lovable? I mean, with Terry Pratchett, usually they are lovable. Would you say the cast of characters is diverse? This might be super important for some people that are looking to read books that are diverse and that represent them, so people might look into this. And are the flaws of the main characters the main focus of the book? This can also be quite important for people who are looking to read character-driven stories. So let's say yes. I'm not going to save this, so none of this really matters. It's just to show you guys. But we also have ratings, so as you can say, you can give like 4.25, 5.75, and so forth. So I hope you enjoyed this guide through the Storygraph. I'm not sponsored by them. I just really enjoy this website compared to Goodreads, which is very clunky sometimes. And I think if this website got more people into it, then it would grow even more and become even better. So just a recommendation. Let me know what you think about the yearly wrap-up. Show me yours if you have some. I'm really curious to see what other people's mood charts and everything is. But yeah, I guess I'll be seeing you next week with probably a book review. And yeah, alright, see you soon. Bye.